I think suffice it to say, if you're a Steelers fan, 2018 season was definitely a disappointment. It was a bit of a dumpster fire. Maybe long term, it was a therapeutic type of cleanse that was necessary, although Mike Tomlin is still your head coach. So, how therapeutic was it? But you figure with the 2018 season, you saw the season long holdout of Le'Veon Bell, where you're thinking, hey, he might play under the franchise tag, then he's not going to. Is he going to come back? And then he never actually materializes in a Steelers uniform that entire season. And you have the saga that played out at the end of the season with Antonio Brown and him getting into it with Big Ben, him not being in the last game of the season when the playoffs were on the line. Just a lot of things did not go well. And for a team that's been in the mix the past several years now, only to shoot themselves in the foot and disappoint when it mattered most, 2018 was really, really bad because they didn't even make it to the playoffs. Oopsie daisies. And now you look at this team, it's going to look different than it has been in years past. No more killer bees. Le'Veon Bell gone in free agency to the New York Jets. Antonio Brown traded to the Oakland Raiders, New England Patriots. They wanted to get rid of Antonio Brown so bad they were willing to take on a $21 million cap hit and only third and fifth round picks in return for an elite wide receiver. That should already tell you how desperate they were to get rid of this guy based off of the monster that they had created. So naturally, a lot of people are going to look at this team and think that they're due for a big step back because they don't have one of the best wide receivers in the game out there. It's another year they're not going to have one of the best all-around running backs in the game. But you look at them, still a lot to like about this team. And sometimes you could definitely have a case of addition by subtraction. And perhaps we could look at no longer having Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown associated with that Steelers organization as two examples of addition by subtraction. Now, going into this offseason, those were the biggest news items. Where was Le'Veon Bell going to go? Where was Antonio Brown ultimately going to be sent to? But you look at the draft, the Steelers made a big move up the board from 20 to 10 to go get the inside linebacker from Michigan, Devin Bush. And when you talk about a few years ago when Ryan Shazier hurt his neck and wasn't able to play anymore, something that they really missed was a playmaker on the inside of that linebacking core. And now with Devin Bush, they most certainly would appear to have it. And if they get anything else out of this draft class from like Deontay Johnson or Benny Snell Jr., then that is just gravy. They really needed an impact difference maker inside of that defense. And I feel like with Devin Bush that they got it. They were in a position where they still could make the argument for quality over quantity, and they went and got their quality. Now, when you look at this roster, what can you still really like about them? I still think you have some really good pieces in place. You have a future Hall of Fame quarterback, and Big Ben Roethlisberger threw for over 5,000 yards last year, so his career is not over yet. James Conner stepped in very, very admirably, very, very nicely in 2018. You could certainly make the argument that he was better in 2018 than Le'Veon Bell was in 2017 from an efficiency standpoint. And then you look at Juju Smith-Schuster. You talking about a guy that put up big-time numbers himself in that offense, and you wouldn't necessarily see that going away, even if his role slightly changes in 2019, since he's going to be the kind of featured number one option in that passing game. But they still have some guys. They found kind of that next man up mentality. Gone is Le'Veon Bell. Here comes James Conner. Antonio Brown is gone. You were already preparing Juju Smith-Schuster for that role. And I think you're in pretty good hands there. That offensive line is solid, if not spectacular, but is a unit that I think goes a little unheralded sometimes. Pretty good in my estimation. Then you look at them. This is a team that should be able to get plenty of pass rush from their front seven. When you talk about wanting to be able to win games in the playoffs, you want to be able to get a fourth quarter pass rush. And you look at TJ Watt and some of the other guys they have in their front seven. I think this will be a Steelers unit that will, again, be able to get some pass rush and generate some heat even late in games on opposing quarterbacks. The question marks, though, who fills the void of Antonio Brown's production? As much of a pain in the ass and a hemorrhoid as he was in that locker room and for that organization, he was a big-time player. He was a big-time money player. And that's a lot of production to lose. Who's going to step up and who's going to fill that void and fill that gap and make up for some of that lost production? When you look at them, can the Steelers' secondary hold up in big spots? has been a knock on them for years, and the overdrafting of guys such as Artie Burns and Terrell Edmonds most certainly does not help. They occasionally try to invest in the position, but when they do, they get it wrong. And you would think for an organization that drafts so many other positions well, the fact that they can't evaluate the secondary very well is just kind of mind blowing, actually. Just absolutely mind blowing. But I think the biggest question of all, and it's the question of all for them pretty much every year, especially under Mike Tomlin, is can the Steelers avoid the sloppy losses? There's something about Tomlin as a head coach and Big Ben as a quarterback that every year, you know it, guys. You absolutely know it because I talk about it every year, and it happens every year. They will lose a couple of games to really, really bad teams, both at home and on the road, that they just have absolutely no business losing. No business losing. And those are the games that make the difference between them potentially having the top overall seed and having home field advantage in the playoffs to them looking up as a 2 or 3 seed and having to go into New England where they ultimately lose. These are the types of games, those mid-season games against these really bad teams that they got to figure out a way to start winning. I talk about it every year, and every year they don't do it. Is this finally going to be year to do it? When you look at their schedule, a lot of focus and attention is going to be on that Week 1 matchup Sunday night against the Patriots. It's in Foxborough. Obviously, got the Antonio Brown saga of him ultimately ending up in New England. And what a freak show that is in and of itself. But he won't be playing in the game, but still a lot of interesting subplots. And an interesting spot in prime time on a Sunday night against the defending Super Bowl champions for the Steelers to come out and show who they could be and what they're about without Le'Veon Bell for good and without Antonio Brown for good. But I think there are other games that are, in the grand scheme of things, are more important. Like if they played the Patriots competitively in Week 1 and they lost, I don't think you feel that bad about them. The games where you would feel bad about them if they lost are as follows. Week 3 in San Francisco. Week 8 at home against the Dolphins. Week 12 at the Bengals. Week 14 at the Cardinals. In my estimation, those should be 4 bad teams this year. You can't lose to those teams. You just can't. You can lose to the Browns once and lose to the Ravens once and lose to the Patriots and maybe lose to another good team or two. But it's these teams that you must be able to handle your business against. It's the 49ers and the Dolphins and the Bungles and the Cardinals of the world that you have to be able to beat. And it really doesn't help for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and Big Ben with their track record of crap in the bed against these crappy teams. That 3 of those games against crappy teams, or what I believe to be crappy teams, are going to be on the road. Boy, based off of history, they're going to lose a couple of them. And if they do, it opens up the door for Cleveland or even Baltimore potentially to win this division. That said, I feel like the Steelers are still the best team in the division, even though, yes, I understand they did not win the division last year. Yes, I understand they no longer have Antonio Brown. I still feel like the most balanced, complete team in the division. They've got the best quarterback in the division. I still like the Steelers. If they go out there and they don't make the playoffs this year, then I'll stop pumping them full of gas because really, honestly, they don't deserve it. I feel like sometimes it's a fear of missing out. It's FOMO with these guys. The one year that I wouldn't pick them to do crap is the year that Tomlin actually learns how to coach and these guys win a damn Super Bowl. It's like one of those guilty pleasures. You've been on the wagon so damn hard and long, you don't want to get off of it now. But I feel like the addition by subtraction is going to be helpful here. I think the Steelers win this division. They probably win 11 games and could be able to cause a little bit of worry for other teams in the playoffs.